All right, the Federalist Molly Hemingway writes, quote, "The GOP can't be successful until Mitch McConnell is gone." All right, maybe too harsh. I don't know. I don't want to make a federal case. Mr. McConnell has done some very good things down through the years, most especially on getting great Supreme Court judges and stopping bad ones, but not so much the last couple years. So we will talk about it with Katie Pavlich, townhall.com editor, Fox News contributor, and Charlie Hurt, Washington Times opinion editor and Fox News contributor. Katie, I don't want to look. I don't want to be totally unfair to Mitch McConnell. It's just that I think this is a terrible bill. There's a lot of agreement about that. Yeah. He's all saying, given the Senate, Democratic House, Democratic president, what a great bill this is, and the Republicans' top priority is the Ukraine. You know, what about our borders? I mean, but I just think Molly Hemingway makes some very tough, throw some very tough punches at Senator McConnell. I want to get your take on it, please.
Well, the difference here, Larry, is that Republicans in the Senate had an opportunity, or still have an opportunity, to get this vote into the next Congress when Republicans do have more control in the House of Representatives, to get more of what they want, or to stop some of this spending and pet projects and earmarking that Senate Democrats have put into this bill. The fact is that Senate Republicans are not standing up for their voters. They're not standing up for the way that our government is fundamentally supposed to work. This idea that we're now just throwing in everything in the kitchen sink into 4,000-page bills is not how the system was set up. The system was set up for slow deliberation and, yes, gridlock and debate. We don't do that anymore. We make excuses about why things have to be passed because everything is jumbled together, and we say, well, we're up against a deadline for Christmas or some other deadline, and therefore we have to pass it so that people can get home to their families. The reality is that's not how the government was set up, and it also allows for representatives who are elected by the people to get away with not explaining very specific votes on single bills, rather a large bill that nobody has read.
Yeah, there you go. Charlie, why is Mitch McConnell so enthusiastic? I mean, some of the statement he made about Democratic House, Democratic Senate, it's like this is a wonderful thing. Ukraine is our top priority. That's not our top priority. And to go back to Katie's point, why were they in such a hurry to do a year-long omnibus bill? Why are they disempowering or betraying a Republican House? I still don't get that part, Charlie Hurt.
I think it has to do with the fact that Mitch McConnell is terrified of a fight, of an actual fight. And what we're seeing is exactly why voters declined to put Republicans in charge of the United States Senate in the last election, despite all of the headwinds, or the tailwinds that they enjoyed, all of the reasons why Republicans should have been able to make the argument to the American people, put us in control of the entire Congress and we'll start fixing things. It's because these people are cowards. And I'm sorry, I agree with you. There are a lot of things I could point to in Mitch McConnell's career that I would be grateful for. But I'm sorry, he's a coward. He's a disaster. He's a failure. He's a failed leader. And if there's any other lesson that we have learned over the last couple of years, particularly with Republicans, on the Republican side of things, it's that voters are looking for a leader. Say what you want to about Donald Trump. He was an unflinching leader. He was not afraid to walk in and make a decision and stick to it. Mitch McConnell and these people, so you gum up the works and you break everything down and you don't pass a bill before Christmas. And they, all the jet fumes and all the things that supposedly get lawmakers excited about voting for anything, it's a fight. And I think a lot of people want to fight, particularly on the Republican side. But Mitch McConnell has proved himself to be a coward. He doesn't want to fight. And I think that the American people would go with just about anybody as long as they go in there and fight for what's right.
All right. That's tough stuff, and I appreciate it. But, Katie, let me make this point. Mitch McConnell was not afraid to fight on the judges. All right. In fact, if you go back to 2016, he was not afraid to fight Obama and keep Merrick Garland out of the court. Thank heavens for that. And then during the Trump years, he was not afraid to fight. And Mitch was a big help in getting the tax cuts passed. Maybe he didn't take the lead, but he was a big help. It just seems like the last year or two, Katie, And is he nearing retirement? Is that part of the issue here? But then again, maybe, I mean, I don't believe that Mitch has turned into some left liberal Democrat all of a sudden, because he has a conservative record. It's just this whole omnibus episode is so disappointing to me, Katie. I don't quite know how to deal with it, to tell you the truth. I've known the guy for decades.
Well, look, yes, you can praise the things he's done in the past. The judges are one of them, but that doesn't mean that what's on the table now gets a free pass just because there were judges that he got passed before. You know, the idea that we've been hearing about is that we can't, push this into the new year and we have to avoid a government shutdown. It's a very Washington-type speak when you talk about how the government has to keep running, where the rest of the country has to stick to their budget and meet their deadlines and pay their bills. And, whenever I've been around for a government shutdown, I've been around for a few of them, they always say that the non-essential workers are the only ones who are going to be affected. Well, I think that brings up a bigger point about why the federal government is funding all of these programs in the first place. If there are non-essential workers in the federal government, then maybe Republicans should take a look at why they exist in the first place and the kind of agencies that they're funding, again, through this $1.7 trillion bill.
I would have taken the government shutdown. We're kind of out of time, but Charlie Hurd, I just have to ask you, in this monstrosity of a bill, the FDA, the Federal Drug Administration, has new powers to regulate the cosmetics industry. The Wall Street Journal calls it the Department of Mascara. And I know you're an expert on mascara, so I just wondered what you were thinking about the Biden Department of Mascara.
It's insane.
That's a joke, Charlie. It's a joke.
Absolutely anything, and they will. But let me just say this. I think this is really important. If you go back and you look at every government shutdown that Republicans got blamed for, in the next election after those government shutdowns, Republicans picked up seats. Republicans can win these fights because they're right about government shutdowns. And the second thing, kudos to Mitch McConnell. I have praised him my entire time in politics. I've always praised him, especially for judges. But let's not forget, when he stopped Merrick Garland, and I am so grateful, it's one of the greatest things we've ever seen in politics in the last couple of years. When he stopped Merrick Garland, it was a great thing. But let's not forget what Mitch McConnell was thinking when he stopped Merrick Garland. He thought he was holding that seat open and assumed Hillary Clinton was going to be the president that filled that spot. And so this idea that he did something so great because he was keeping a seat open for Donald Trump. No, it took Donald Trump to come along to finally break the logjam on judges and put judges on the bench who actually believed in the Constitution. And no Republican, and Lord knows no Democrat before him, understood that very simple thing. And that is why voters are so frustrated with, they've given up on Democrats.
No, these are good.
With Republicans, they're so frustrated.
These are good points. Katie, are you satisfied with Charlie's answer on the Department of Mascara?
Yes, I am. I think it's very crucial that the federal government monitor mascara.
Yeah, you got to do it. Absolutely. It's essential. It's in this bill, by the way. Anyway, thank you to both of you.
Mascara and salmon. Lots of mascara and salmon.
Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. And thank you ever so much for helping out.